Jeez. Get ready for bed.
It's from when I was getting sleep.
Are we live yet, Steph?
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
wow,
we're live.
Wow, it happened
That's
again.
a picture of us.
Wow,
Weird.
that's neat how that
It
happens.
is us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Management Q&A After Dark.
Oh, it's not a ghost thing.
Yeah. Well, could be.
Maybe his place could be haunted.
Spooky haunted Q&A.
I don't like this place, Scoob.
Grip it. Wait. Do it into the mic. You can grip it and rip it into the mic.
Oh, grip.
Yeah.
This is our ASMR.
Oh,
right here.
yeah. Here.
Oh,
It's nice. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We don't know how this is going to go, but I guess we'll all learn together, won't we? Feel free to post questions you have for us in the comments section, and we will try to address them. Period. Storm, you had found one that seemed like a good starter.
yeah, there were a couple, but the first question that I saw was, how can you afford the virtual cruise? And indeed, this is an entirely free event. We have hired people and entertainers and platforms and systems. The short answer is we have a marketing budget. And because we're not doing regular marketing, we basically said, all right, let's do that with it. And honestly, even if, we had to cut other places to do it, that we fundamentally felt like it was important to do this because it's a long stretch between when we got off the ship in 2020 and when we're going to get back on in 2022. And even as great and tight and wonderful as this community is, that's a long time to not have a reason to assemble. And since we made the judgment pretty early that 2021 wasn't going to sail, we looked at the calendar and said, it'd be great if we can do something around the time that we were going to sail. So that's the short version. We couldn't afford not to do the cruise.
Well, the four of us here are really the tip of the iceberg in terms of.
Sorry, I can't be sincere for too long. I know, I did.
No, we're the tip of the iceberg in terms of the people who
Don't say iceberg, please.
We're the
Tip of the spear.
Yeah, we're the.
I don't think you can say that either.
We're the fuzzy end of the lollipop.
Yeah.
Nothing's good. No metaphor is ever good. Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
That's a model. That
We're the part of the duck that looks stately and calm above water.
Yeah.
And then you're going to imagine that there's one duck, but actually a bunch of different duck legs, which are all the other people who work. It was better with the iceberg metaphor. But what I'm saying is we are not actually the entirety of JoCo Cruise. In fact, most of what you experience on the cruise is the product of our year-round staff and our onboard staff and the ship's crew who are able to plan this event. And a big priority for us was to keep our year-round people working during this pandemic.
Yeah.
So the biggest reason I think we're able to do, or one of the big reasons we're able to do the virtual cruise, is that we have an amazing team of people, some of whom who you know, some of whom you see in the comments, some of whom are kind of backstage virtually, who have been guiding us through this before each of these Zooms. Steph, who is also a theater producer, is on the Zooms making sure that we're sound checked and that the angles are right and that the mics are working. It really is, our people are the reason that we're able to do this and because we're keeping them on and not able to run a normal cruise event.
Right.
You guys want to see Steph? You want to meet Steph, everybody? Steph, if you're willing to join, and you know what, Cruise Mom Tara is actually backstage.
Yeah, we have to have Tara,
I think
too.
we absolutely need to add
The
those
people
two
who really
to
make
this
JoCo
Q&A.
Cruise.
Yeah, the people who they'll tell you how they'll give you the real answers to things.
Yeah.
So please feel free to join on in. Tara, give us a nod if you're.
But you also don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, and tell us.
Tara's nodding. Yeah, Tara's born ready to do this. Steph, you
Cruise
Mom, Cruise Mom's got the claw. Ain't no law where there's Cruise Mom.
Well, I think that we should give another round of applause to Tara and Steph. Tara's been working in the Discord to manage the event and to help maintain the code of conduct in the community, and Steph's been helping us get our kind of incredibly disorganized shit together during this period.
We'd also like to thank Tara for fully embracing the not adopted other than in our hearts, theme of fun on the sun, at least according to the lighting that she's...
Very bright.
Yeah.
I sit next to my plant stand. So...
Oh, you have
that's how I look.
You're because you're photosynthesizing right now.
Yeah, I've switched over to explicitly White Claw and chlorophyll.
Fair enough.
Smart.
Somebody's got to
Yeah.
pump more oxygen
And
into
it's-
this.
It's also my favorite Willie Nelson song.
There you go. So Cruise Mom Tara has been around the cruise. Were you there on the first JoCo cruise? Which was your first cruise?
No, so Shadow Master Bob went on the first one and really tried to get my husband and I to join. But I was being laid off. So we didn't. And then we thought, we'll go on this one stupid cruise this one time.
Yeah.
And 8 years later, you got a new job from it.
Yeah, and then this stupid cruise redefined my life and I work for it now. So great job, guys.
And Steph is a relative newcomer to the cruise. I don't remember the exact etymology of Steph with JoCo Cruise. Either of you can.
Steph.
Yes,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
see who address it.
How
Let's hear how you think.
Yeah, Steph, how did you find us?
Yeah. So my best friend went to Yale with Drew, and
Name dropper.
they said that
We all know Drew. It's not a big deal.
cruise
Yeah.
needed the cruise needed some help with somebody who knows how to produce things, and I know how to do that. So I came on in 2019 was my first sailing.
Yeah, and Steph had kind of a crazy ramp up. You'd never been on the cruise before. We hired
You
you
were
in
hired like right before the cruise happened, right?
well, because we wanted. Yeah, we hired you like right before the actual cruise, and you came on the cruise without having really had more than like a month to read the documents about what we do, right?
And,
Yeah, not
and,
much time at all.
and your job title is line producer,
Oh,
which...
there's apparently echo coming in.
Oh, Echo.
So I'm not sure how we're going to hear you guys. I guess turn the volume down as much as you can.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So we're going to have to listen real carefully when Tara or Steph talk.
So
We should
handling...
do it anyway.
Yeah, that's a given. It should be our default
yeah,
state.
I mean we do.
Has that echo improved at all? Tell us in the comments. There's probably a little lag before we'll find out, but
Yeah, we didn't sound check ourselves.
yeah,
No, it's because it's after dark.
It's after dark,
You don't
man.
do that. You just
Yeah.
you shoot from the hip and you drink White Claw.
everything's gonna. You know when you
could
get an
have, but
echo
we had
because the
already-
answer's so good, you got to hear them twice. There was another question. The echo is the same. Oh, that's grand. Well, why don't you mute and Steph and Tara, if you need to speak, just wave real quick, so we'll stop talking to know that you're speaking. Another question I had seen earlier, there were people wondering if we can keep the Discord. Is the Discord staying around, and can we do shadow events throughout the rest of the year? And that is absolutely our plan. The Discord is, as far as we're concerned, a permanent new fixture as a social space, an alternate social space for JoCo cruisers. And we fully intend to hold and coordinate future virtual cruise events, and we fully encourage people to self-organize, much like the Shadow Cruise itself. Feel free to gather in the Discord, organize your own shadow events. You don't have to do it via a schedule of ours per se. That's one of the things we're really hoping people coalesce around in there. So absolutely, feel free to take advantage of your social media spaces available to you. But yes, those are definitely here to stay.
And someone else actually asked, would we do virtual cruise like once a year or do it again? And absolutely, we did the Sail Away show, and we've done this now. And shortly before this session, we did discuss, we definitely want to do some sort of events through the year to be able to keep it going like this. And it's been so much fun. And I don't think it's only because it's the pandemic and this was our excuse to quarantine and get together in person. It's legit been just a blast doing it, and it feels, a lot like the real thing, if more remote.
We do like a cruise half birthday.
Yes. Sweetest day.
Yeah.
We'll do one on Sweetest day.
Yes.
And I think that one of the other things about the Discord is that, it's sort of necessity is the mother of invention. And Tara's the mother of the Discord. We didn't really know where to take the community, and Discord became popular. Discord is of the social media options, one that doesn't do a massive charge to the user. It's not quite as like monetized and balkanized as Facebook. So
Yeah.
I think Tara wants.
Go ahead, Tara.
Hand or?
I was just going to say some folks are already setting up shadow events or redos of their shadow events that they can record because there's been a lot of request for watching that event for seeing that talk. So that's happening, and please keep doing it. And if you need any sort of support from me, just message me, and I'm happy to help.
We're unmuted.
And certainly, like having the bandwidth now that we do, the cruise started out with just the four of us, or well, the three of these guys, and then the four of us, and then one year-round staff person, and now a few more. And the ability to manage these community spaces, it's a pleasure and it's so important for the cruise, but it's also not a zero effort activity. So this is something that we're able to offer now that the cruise has become a bit more
But it
mature.
was amazing. I remember we set up the Discord with the idea of let's see how it goes, and we opened it up, and almost immediately it was like, wow!
Completely out of our control.
Yeah, it's like one of those cool science experiments in a sci-fi novel where like you just water some seeds or something, and you put it away, and you open up the box the next day, and like a whole tiny little world has grown,
Right.
and it just sort of
Like in a small container that you fill with water, and you take a packet.
yeah, exactly, or like yeah. One highly specific question that I can give an answer to. Someone was asking where the Vance Gilbert concert is. It's not on the JoCo Cruise YouTube channel. That's because that concert was actually streamed through Vance's YouTube channel. I don't know if he archives his. He does a regular Monday night series, and he did this one special for us. I do not honestly know. Probably the comments do if he archives those and makes them viewable in the future or not. That's Vance's decision. It's his content. So if it's not and you'd like to see it, you could very politely ask him. Don't bug him, and maybe he will make it available to you. That's his choice, though.
And one thing I should say is that Tara and Steph have been hugely instrumental in the virtual cruise. There are so many people who are making this possible, and we can't have all of them on or even thank them all by name. But Kate Cantrell is a helper. We've
Yes.
been working with the cruise for a long time, and Kate actually mentioned in the comments that Vance's show is in the virtual cruise playlist. on
Okay.
YouTube. So
Great.
Okay.
So it's not.
Then
It
we-
wasn't streamed by us,
Yes.
but it should be viewable there.
Yes, as we talk about the Discord, Kate and all of the moderators working on the Discord, and they're volunteer mods, and we thank them so much for working to make the space usable and safe and all of those things. It's kind of amazing to me to see that kind of dedication to a thing like this. So we thank you for that.
Here's a question. Don't know how many folks saw it, but can we have the Great Fancy Pants debate every year? A new tradition.
I mean, try and
So-
stop us.
So for those of you who didn't watch it, we highly recommend you go back and watch it. The Fancy Pants Parade this evening, which I was fully expecting to be a fun little 10-minute, 15-minute event, turned into quite a round
salon,
table.
if you
A
will.
salon.
we chewed on it like a dog with a Kong. It was just.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about,
Yeah.
It's pants. It's like,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
It's pants, period. It's complicated, period.
Oh, and by the way,
Help in.
that's the last question. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. We can read them. I've been looking down here, waiting for you to ask a question, and it doesn't even have to be about us. Just facts, anything, really.
While we're waiting, can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody who signed up to help this year. We did a weird new thing, and I didn't have very clear instructions until the last minute, and we couldn't have pulled off the Shadow Cruise without everybody who volunteered to sit at their computer and run Zoom things, a thing we all mostly do during the day anyway. And so we appreciate you very, very much, and thank you.
We just got the best question ever, and the answer is so easy. The question is, do you guys miss me? And it's from Jim Boja.
Who's in the comments,
It's
y'all?
in the comments.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah, of course we miss you. Jim, are you kidding?
We've been talking about you, when not just in guitar tuning. We do miss you.
Yeah, if you all missed Jim Boja, just tune into the closing concert tomorrow night. That's all I'll say about
You'll see
that.
some of him there, for sure.
There's a a question that I saw that I will summarize this way. But we regularly get asked, both in comments of this session and in emails and such, people asking about will performer or artist or guest such and such be on the next JoCo cruise. And I can honestly tell you right now, we don't know, because it has been such a period of lack of knowledge of anything going on. It's very difficult to get, even if we wanted to, it would be very difficult to get people before this point to commit to something that involved getting on a large boat full of people.
Yeah.
We are, now that things are hopefully calming down and moving in a good direction and continuing to move in a good direction regarding the pandemic, we can start to better concentrate on things like programming the ship. We welcome your suggestions and recommendations. There's places where you can submit your suggestions. I go through every one of them. I promise you none do not get considered. But the honest answer is we don't know and can't really say for a while who's going to be on the next ship. Much as we honestly, genuinely, we could fill an entire ship just with all the artists we would like to bring. We always want to bring all of our friends on the ship. And the fact of the matter is there's just room for so many in the programming and such. So it's always tough decisions, but we're working on it, I promise you.
We should just do a thing where every year we reduce the attendee count by 1 and increase the performer count by 1. So eventually it'd be like a ship full of performers and just one person paying for the whole ship. That's a good idea, right?
Yeah. Someone has asked, when can we book for 2023? We are actually working on that. We cannot say when that will happen, but
I thought he was asking about 2022 for a second, but yeah,
it is
2023.
You can book
TBD.
Yeah.
2022 tomorrow.
2022, of those of you who have not seen the email or us talking about it earlier, 2022 opens tomorrow. That's Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Booking opens if you, we're guessing most of you here are probably already booked on it, but if you are not, or if you know people who are interested, booking starts tomorrow at 1. Go to jococruise.com. You'll find the links. Here's hoping it goes really well.
It's a little weird to already be talking about
I know, right?
2023.
Yeah.
But that's the cruise biz.
Yeah, we certainly can at least say we are working. We fully expect there to be a 2023 cruise, notwithstanding whatever. But we don't have details to discuss.
Okay, here's a question, wrong answers only.
Okay.
What's a berth? BERTH. Wrong answers only.
The thing that flies in the sky.
My speech pathologist wife thanks you for that. No, a berth is it's a tiny person from the tiny country Berthania. It's in the Balkans. It actually only existed as a country for about 7 days. There was an error.
Part of Yugoslavia.
There was an error in the Yugoslavian constitution, and it was a spelling error. So basically, there was about 17 people that were from Berthania for a week.
What did they misspell?
Yugoslavia.
In fact, a berth is short for berthendemule, which is unit of measurement that is 1/5. It's a shorthand way to say 1/5. So let's say you had a bedroom that was 5,000 square feet. That's a big bedroom.
That's a really big bedroom.
But if you did, it would be 1,000 square feet if you said, I have a berth. Or if you had one that was, say, 500, it would be. So you get it. That's a berth engine.
Yeah, it's a small sebaceous cyst on the back of the Achilles tendon.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, with like moisture, temperature changes, you can grow a little berth or two right around there.
Great. The real answer is actually a berth is a bed in a cabin on a ship. That's.
Or it really is. It's a slot. It's a slot for a person in the cabin on a ship.
Right.
When you look at the ship, in their map, each of the cabins has typically between 2 and 4 sort of slots for people in it, and that corresponds to the ship's map of where the muster stations are for the lifeboats. So each cabin on the ship has a certain number of berths that are pre-allocated to it that are a part of the ship's evacuation plan for, and then actually since the Titanic is where a lot of these laws actually first came out. There were a long series of trials in Congress in the United States, and then they set up all these rules. That was when they mandated that every passenger ship have a lifeboat for every passenger, because it turns out that was a big oopsie on the old RMS Titanic.
A little oversight.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah.
I have a serious question that I would like to...
Wrong answer only.
You don't want the wrong answer to this one. The question is, can you enforce everyone on 2022 being vaccinated, parens, unless they're medically exempt? This is one of the things that we have been discussing internally. We have been discussing with our industry people. And that is something that we are pushing for very much, for that to be done on the cruise line's end. It is still not settled with them. For our part, right now we want to do that. We will do it in some fashion. If the cruise line doesn't do it, we're going to have to figure out how we do it ourselves and verify what the rules are there exceptions, and why. We have not gone through it all yet. But under it all, we will not and are not going to sail if we do not feel it is going to be safe for everybody to sail, both passengers and crew. So that's a yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were up to, ultimately it is up to us, and we'll do it if we have to. As Storm said, we prefer for the cruise line to handle it, because they have the infrastructure to deal with that a little better than we would. But it's all still in flux right now. I think the cruise industry as a whole is still trying to figure out exactly how things are going to work and what they need to do. And I think some cruise lines have already agreed to do that. Some of the smaller cruise lines, yeah.
In fact, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and the smaller ones are doing it to some extent.
Right.
There is one of the Carnival brands. Holland America is one of 7 brands that Carnival owns. And Seabourn, they have said, is going to require it. And, so far they have not committed beyond that. But we're certainly telling them that it's important to us.
I mean, if I had to guess, it feels like that's where most things are moving. It feels like that's the direction everybody's headed. And unfortunately, all these things have become politicized in various ways, and it's hard to know exactly where they're going to land. But it feels like that's where they're going. Mm-hmm. And I do think they have already. I mean, they plan to have, certainly staff are required to be vaccinated.
That's already
onboard staff is already taken care of.
Because ultimately, the cruise lines know if they roll it out and it doesn't go well.
The last thing they want is a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our read on the cruise line situation is that they are really hoping somebody else makes the decision or makes the call, and none of the major mass market cruise lines that are sailing with these 1,000, 2,000 plus passenger vessels are operating in the U.S. yet. So it's a little soon for us to see how they're going to make their choices, and then we have to make our choices after they make theirs. Yeah. So if I knew more about poker, I would say something about we're waiting for the flop.
But we're certainly
that's right. Waiting for the flop.
Yeah, I know about poker.
You know about poker.
And we're certainly in constant contact with our industry folks who are great and have been in this for such a long time. It's not like we have a big giant secret cache of information. We don't, but we do get the temperature of what's happening. And as Jonathan was saying, it's heading in a good direction.
There was a question here. I'm going to combine a couple of questions. There was some questions, which is a regular one we get. Are we ever considering going back to the West Coast for a route? And a semi-related question, if there continue to be pandemic-related issues in Florida, is a different departure location under consideration? Regarding that second part, there's certain things we have control over when we charter a ship. We have control within logistical reason of the ports of call that we can stop at, provided they'll work out in the routing, if they are available at the time. We're not full of other ships, so to speak, at the time we want to set that itinerary and things like that. We do not have control over this port that the ship starts and begins in, because we're fitting in with the cruise line schedule, that they're running this particular ship for a series of months out of Fort Lauderdale, or we can't just say, hey, things are not going great, let's go in and out of New Orleans instead. We can, at some point decide if we want to charter a ship that starts and ends in New Orleans or some other port, but we can't just say, let's go some other parking lot.
Yeah, no, it's dependent on where they deploy. It's actually pretty cool. We kind of have a mileage budget where there's the distance that the ship will go in a week, and within that we choose where we're going to go and how many stops and the rest.
I don't mind addressing the question again, even though we have a few times. People ask about West Coast departures. We left out of San Diego several times. People regularly ask about Seattle departure, like an Alaskan cruise. In the short term, the very short term, we're expecting JoCo Cruise to remain in and out of Florida. We loved sailing the Mexican San Diego routing. One of the limitations of it is because of the way our event is structured, we're limited in the ports of call we can stop at. And there's just fewer options of ports and call on that routing. There's just not as many cruises going in and out of there. So it can limit the variation, and that's one of the problems we found we ran into the second time leaving out of San Diego. Was our itinerary ended up by necessity having to be essentially the same as the previous year, and we got feedback about that in various ways, that people weren't as excited about that. An Alaskan cruise, it's a thing we've always discussed as an option. One of the problems with Alaskan cruises is it is genuinely colder no matter what time of year you go, and so it makes it that much harder to do anything that's on the upper decks. They generally, those types of cruises are built around a lot of port stops because it's more sightseeing and tourist oriented, which is great, except when you're trying to program events. Part of our whole deal is we like to have a few days at sea to be able to fit in everyone's Shadow Cruise events and all of our side events and such. And that sort of doesn't work great with the way our Alaskan cruise itineraries usually are set up. It's not a thing we're never considering. We've talked about it every year. We look into options.
Well, one of the things we've talked about before pandemic was, hey, maybe we might explore some other things that we might do, and that might be doing something that's maybe not a whole JoCo cruise, but a sailing that would be smaller, that wouldn't be programmed out to the nines, that maybe there's a show every night, maybe not even every night, but it's way too early for us to even return to thinking about that. But that would be a condition under which we could do Alaska, or maybe even depart somewhere Mediterranean. That would be pretty cool.
Transatlantic, baby.
There we go.
All the time.
Well, and one of the things that we saw that I think is interesting is, like, there's the cruise that's the most novel, that's going to be the most exciting to people who are already steeped in what JoCo Cruise is and who are connoisseurs of what cruises are. And then there's the cruise that someone who is on the website, who's clicking through the booking flow, wants to actually buy. And, like, those two things aren't actually the same. Like, and the variety of itinerary options you get in the Caribbean, the pricing of Caribbean cruises around March, and the fact that it's cold and that a lot of people live places and want to get somewhere warm, makes, in terms of, like, and it's not all about this, but obviously part of it is, like, makes the sort of product aspect of what JoCo Cruise is as a thing that has a website and a sales page and needs to attract people. Caribbean in March is actually a very, very solid product that a lot of people really like, and it's more exciting to people than even the Mexico itineraries we saw. Like, the one-time Mexico one was exciting, but multiple Mexico itineraries, we didn't get a strong survey response.
But we definitely want to go back. Like,
We do.
Loretto in
We do.
particular, that's actually becoming, I wouldn't say a hot destination, but you're starting to see it pop up more, and we're like, wow, we can't take full credit for that, but
I know.
it's cool that we were there. We're Loretto hipsters.
Yeah.
And somewhat related to all of this discussion, people ask us regularly, and I've seen a similar question or two in the comments here regarding doing a land event. We've done this virtual event.
Well, there was a follow-on to that.
Can we do a land event, for people who can't afford a cruise or just hate the sea or can't swim, anything like that? This is, again, a thing we have discussed. There are a lot of advantages to doing a land cruise. Like, you don't have to pack an entire convention onto a moving ship and go away somewhere and make everything that you need a lot more expensive and difficult to get. Part of the issue with that is we are a small company. We have people right here on this stream whom we love and who are incredibly competent. But throwing a land event is, while on the surface the event structures are similar, it's a whole different infrastructure underneath and a way of building an event and dealing with things that, while would be fun, we only have so much bandwidth, and putting on an annual cruise is a full-time job for all of us involved.
And we've discussed this for years about how we could do it and still keep the heart of what makes JoCo Cruise, especially the community aspect and that feel of adventure. And it's a big plus for creating community when you are literally confined to this area and you're traveling together. Mm-hmm. And that if we would have to find a venue that would be comfortable for us,
Zeppelin.
Space, Zeppelin, but that had accommodations, was not like just a camping thing, but was remote enough to give you that feel and sense of adventure, yet we could change it up enough. And at least so far, we have some ideas on how it could be accomplished, but it would definitely be a huge undertaking.
Yeah, we're certainly not saying never, and we're not even saying a long time from now or anything, but it's certainly, it's not a short-term goal that we can accomplish this with the size that we are right now.
But definitely next year. We're definitely doing it.
Yeah, okay. I should say. Yeah, I didn't realize we were talking about it. Yeah,
Cat's out of the bag now.
At least one of the YouTube comments I saw about this question was also talking about, and I just want to address it rather than skipping by it, addressing the environmental impact of cruising, which is far from negligible. It's serious. The ships burn marine bunker fuel, and not a little bit of it. We're confronting climate crisis as a society, as a country, as a globe. JoCo Cruise is committed to sequestering the carbon or offsetting the carbon emissions from the JoCo Cruise. There is a lot of debate about whether that is actually enough for a company to do on these lines. And there's a lot of debate about what a carbon offset or an emissions reduction or a carbon dioxide removal actually is. We have done our best to educate ourselves about that. We don't pretend to know the entire answer. The world doesn't really seem to know the answer.
Yeah.
What we do know is that it is a problem. We actually had a talk earlier this week with Dr. Julio Friedman from Columbia University, who's one of the major researchers on carbon dioxide removal technology. So if you want to learn more about sort of where we are as a society on that, that's a great place to start learning. And also jococruise.com/carbon, you can see everybody on this subject loves to write a white paper, and we did it too. So if you'd like to read our white paper, it is actually a really good introduction.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting and in depth, and gets at the completely complex issue. Not just what the crisis is, and what is the nature of the crisis and the timeline of the crisis, but also how are the various ways that what are the various things that you can do to fight against it, and how effective are they? And then, even when you drill down, when you're carbon sequestration, there's so many different ways of doing it, and what are the things you have to think about to know that you are actually making a difference because that's the problem, is that we don't really know, and even experts do not agree on what is an effective way to offset carbon or to push back against the trend, the horrible trend that we're on right now. So it's good reading, even though it's a long thing called a white paper. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. A white paper, which is a subgenre of gray literature, I learned according to Wikipedia.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, well, because gray literature is like information that's not vetted by scientific authorities. We happen to have hired a scientist to help us with the paper, but it nevertheless is gray literature, I believe. But anyway, yeah, we don't pretend to know the answers, but that it's obvious. It's something that's very much on our minds. It's something that we care about. It's something that we're trying to do what we can. And part of the JoCo cruise carbon roadmap, as it were, is that on an annual basis we do reevaluate our strategy and we update our material to address that point. That said, it's
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we hope that by doing that from within, I mean, during this carbon talk, Drew said that, a funny thing, which is that we are basically the biggest hippies in the cruise industry right now.
it's true.
And it's true, and I think it's good to have a voice in that world. That's one of the reasons we publish this white paper, is to say we are thinking about this, we are working on this, we think it's important, and we hope that it helps to bring some attention to it as time goes on.
And on the subject of being the biggest hippies in the cruise business, it is kind of cool. We run we do some education with the cruise ship crew on our trans guests and how to be inclusive and welcoming to everybody who is on our cruise. And we are a different segment of the country and of the world that's coming out onto these ships. And that is exciting. I mean, that's not to distract from any of the other issues that are involved in cruising. But
Question about 2022 is two-parter, taking it from two. One is canceling the land concert a permanent change, and can Half Moon Cay be used for a land concert?
Yes. So, again, for those who maybe aren't familiar, we usually have done a land concert for the last 4 years, I guess. 3 years? 4 years? 4 years, yes.
Yeah.
Twice in Loretto, once
2017.
in Puerto Rico, and then once in
Right.
Santo Domingo. In the middle of the cruise, we stop and we throw a concert. We have a stage built and get a space and throw a concert on land. We have been forced. We were planning on doing one in St. Croix this year. We've been forced to cancel those plans because even to this point, we don't even know if St. Croix will let us off the ship. We certainly expect so, but ask us that a month or 2 months ago. There's just too many logistics to plan. For doing a land concert, we have to have been already planning it for 2 to 3 months at this point. We
should have already been there.
Exactly. We should have been there to visit the site. It is we're in the middle of our floating convention concert experience. We stop and we throw a festival on land.
Insanity.
Which is a dumb, insane thing to do, which we love. Don't get us wrong. I'm one of my favorite group hugs and memories of this, the four of us ever, is the group hug we had after the first Loretto concert.
Yeah.
Amazed we pulled that thing off, which we should never have done, never have been able to do.
It shouldn't have worked.
Should not have worked. Tara is shaking her head. She absolutely knows. Tara can attest.
Yeah, my friend who is a professional nightlife promoter came up to me at the Loretto show in tears. I cannot believe you even chose to do this. And I cannot believe you did it with the people you did it with who don't know what they're doing. And I mostly cannot believe you pulled it off.
I honestly will never forget the meeting we had right before the first Loretto concert, where I just kept having questions like, hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? And poor Drew was standing up there with a clipboard. Every time I raised my hand, he just his spine contracted a little bit and his bones turned a little bit more to dust because we just didn't know. And somehow it was great, and we drank all of their tequila.
Oh, yeah. And we had a couple of secret weapons. One was the amazing core of the folks we call consultants, who come to work on the ship, and the other is our good friend who we lost shortly before the 2017 cruise, Leon Benosian, who works for Worldwide Travel, and he had this gift for just finding the right thing and the right people at the right time. And he had a guy that he had worked with down in Loretto who kind of a wheel down there and knows the hotels and production. So we really it was amazing. We were spoiled. He basically had everything lined up for the sound and the stage. He's like, don't worry about it. And we're like, Leon, are you sure? He said, don't worry about it. He's going to come through. And I remember Drew especially, and all of us, almost crying when we went to the square and the stage was set up.
Yeah.
And it was pro, and everything was laid out, and we're just bowled over by that.
I was equally expecting a little sort of 12 by 12 set of risers in the middle of that square.
Yeah, right.
And it was a full pro stage. All of this, which is to say, the land concerts have been wonderful. We've had a wonderful experience doing them. That said, they are incredibly complicated, especially incredibly complicated when the vast majority of your staff doesn't arrive until that morning. They are, frankly speaking, have grown exponentially in expense.
Ooh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
Santo Domingo. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, there's no need to get into details, but suffice to say, the land concert is a very expensive thing. And it doesn't mean that you're not worth spending money on, but with all of the time,
We'll spend it another way.
and money
So-
being spent on that event, it takes away from things we can concentrate and expend on board the ship. And so, with happenstance, we're not going to have a land concert this year. And the true answer is we don't know what will happen to the land concert going here from forward from here. Why we can say we're not just going to never have a land concert and forget about anything relating to that experience. We loved the land concert because it was an event where everybody could experience it together, which is hard to do. You can't fit all 2,000 passengers on our current ship anywhere in any one place. Even like the back deck, legally you can't fit all the passengers in that area if we were to set up a stage back there, which is an option we talk about now and then.
And also, let's face it, being on a rock stage in an amazing place and
pretty great.
singing, that's
pretty great.
We want to do it.
So, we're certainly not saying no, never any land concert again, but we would like to explore, now that we have this opportunity, what are ways we can fill that particular experience, the communal experience, and just the neat thing that's happening while on the cruise. We don't know exactly what that's going to be even for 2022 yet. But trust us that we're not just taking the money that we would have spent on the land concert and putting it in our pockets.
Well, and the land concert, in a lot of ways, is kind of like those giant dinners you have on the cruise ship. It's really a sometimes food. Like it's really great. And one of the things that we saw was that our year over year, the survey responses and the attendance numbers at the land concert actually started to come down to the point that what we were doing was paying for the number of people who could actually attend on board to go and attend on land for some of the land concert events, and that's not ideal.
And I remember before there was the 2019 Puerto Rico concert that got washed out, I actually think that we may have had a serious double look at having it in 2020, except that experience, because it was such a triumph, kind of renewed the energy of land concert.
And I will say that's also one of the most difficult parts of doing the land concert, is because one of our obligations, as far as we're concerned, is to keep the itineraries changing up and interesting. We can't go to the same places over and over, but that also means we have had to essentially start over from scratch building a land concert every year, because we're working with a new production company. We're on a new island where different facilities and equipment are available or not available, and that is to rebuild it's one thing to do a festival in the same town every year and you get to know all the vendors and you know where everything is. It's a whole other thing to rebuild a festival event, which is what it is, from scratch annually.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a quick one I think we can answer. Any chance of going to Cuba? And I would say in the short to midterm, no, but maybe not for the reason you might think. One, of course, is political, if they will even let you go to Cuba. But the biggest one is actually they don't have the capacity to take large ships yet. That I think the largest ship that was going into there was maybe 500 or 600 and we're 2,000 passengers. But it would sure be pretty neat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, to hop back briefly to the land concert, to the follow-on question that I saw in the chat, to what we were saying, the one place that we do go quite a lot is Half Moon Cay. Could a land concert happen there? The answer is not right now, because it's a tender port, and there's actually very little in the way of infrastructure.
Tender being the little boats that take you
Yes.
from the big boat to the island.
Yeah, there's very little in the way of infrastructure on the island, because the big ship can't pull up. You would have to put all the show gear onto those tender boats, but they also feed you on the island, and they have to put all the food and all the ship's crew who actually crew the island onto the boats. So what you'd be looking at is you get there at 10 in the morning, and then the first guest can't debark until 2.
And I think even the power requirements of a show like that cannot.
Yeah.
Now, that said, interestingly enough, there have been concerts on Half Moon Cay. You can find video of it if you search the New Kids on the Block cruise. They had maybe still have, I'm not sure. They had an annual cruise event kind of like ours, and they did throw a concert at Half Moon Cay. They brought all the audio equipment. They brought stage risers. They built in front of that pirate ship, built out a stage. There was no covering for it, so they were just out in the sun. It was very hot. It was kind of cool because the audience was all half the audience at least was in the ocean, so that was kind of a neat thing. But yeah, they had to bring all of that there with them, and I can't imagine the expense and the setup time and breakdown time for that.
Yeah.
And we have discussed doing something on Half Moon Cay, maybe not a full-on land concert, but that is something that is, if you want to say, more predictable, just because it is a place we know. It's a place that Holland America has more or less control over, that we might be able to put something together that would be a more special experience.
And I think one of the other things is because what we try to do in the land concert is to make a show that is accessible to every guest, that has shade, that has seating, that has sound that can be heard by 2,000 people, that has provided food, that has electricity for all of the guest needs. It's not really the same as running. Like, there's kind of other down and dirty options that we could do that would not meet the goal of the land concert. Like, those are, smaller concerts we can already do on the ship. So we are really trying to hit a particular sweet spot with these land concerts, and they're challenging.
Someone in the comments, of course, asked about a Suez Canal port of call, which actually is 2 simultaneous ports of call if you do it right. We'll get back to you on that one.
Here's the thing. I'd love to know who is behind the curtain of JoCo Cruise likes on social media. We actually have a team of folks, Lady Killer, who manages our social needs, and the person, I don't know, is it okay? I don't know if she wants to be anonymous or not.
Maybe she does.
She might.
We'll talk to them if they want to reveal the folks behind the curtain. We'll tell them to do so within our social media profiles. But the Lady Killer team is excellent. There's several of them who sort of work on generating content. We work with them as well. It's not like
we we do a lot of our business on Slack, and we have kind of a person from Lady Killer.
She says she doesn't mind. So Sarah with Lady Killer actually currently is sort of the main head of the Hydra that runs our social media accounts.
Yeah, we've gotten to know Sarah on the Slack over the years, and she's become familiar with how we run the social media channels, and it's been great.
She's one of us, so it's fine.
And Sarah's been on the cruise or not? I actually don't.
She came one year.
Okay, yeah.
We've got a few minutes left. We haven't heard much from Steph or Tara lately. We got anybody got any good questions for anything you guys want to chime in on, or questions you have for each other or something?
I want to know what you used to hang the flag up on the door.
It
looks like duct tape.
It is
pure magic.
It is after numerous attempts with different media. It is several very haphazardly attached lengths of duct tape.
To 2 twisted ankles.
Worth it though. Worth it.
Absolutely worth it. My favorite thing is it's tough to see from this angle. I'm going to pull it out. My favorite bit about the flag, we always add each year we take a voyage, we add a year to it. The 2021, I don't know if you can see, is in quotes.
Well, and in case those watching at home don't know, this is actually the flag that we got for the 2017, the first charter. We had it embroidered after the fact with the 2017 number. But this flag flies on the ship every year, on each of the different ships that we've chartered.
And when I die, it will be my funeral shroud.
It actually smells like salt water in here, just because of that flag.
Yeah, we'll just have them print a little skull and crossbones on there, and we'll send it down with you.
Exactly.
Somebody's asking how long until we get the Cruise Mom Tara spin-off cruise.
Already working on it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's we sit in a variety of inflatable things in a local waterway, get crunk on White Claw, and just yell. It's not a cruise per se, but it is a water activity. And I invite you all to join me at any time.
It's just going to be 1 week long tattoo meetup.
Well, and I would definitely keep an eye out for every year. I know that Tara puts at least one event on the Shadow Cruise schedule. I'm sorry, I think I'm blowing up your spot right now. Tara puts at least one event on the Shadow Cruise schedule that tends to be a very relaxing excursion to a place that she's seen before. I know that you went to the little beach in
Oh yeah,
Cabo.
I found like a cute little beach in Cabo that we went to. I just my favorite one I did on the last cruise that we were allowed to have was an all bodies pool party where like anybody who didn't feel comfortable getting in the pool was invited to come get in the pool. That was the day I got a sunburn. That was the day I forgot to put sunblock on. But it was really delightful and relaxing because if I don't schedule myself relaxation, I won't get it.
Yeah, I think you seem to schedule Shadow Cruise events like personal therapeutic experiences as much as anything else.
And that's why we yell at the moon.
Yeah.
Yes, and as is noted in the comments, I do believe you might have to at least subtitle that event or hold a separate event, the Get Crunk on White Claw and just yell Shadow Cruise event. I dig that a lot.
Can we get White Claw on the boat?
We'll work on that.
We asked
Interesting.
we asked really hard for it last year.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah,
And they were like, we have laws.
well, no, actually, it's because they have contracts. They signed a deal with one distributor, massive mega chain, and White Claw is not one of their products. So, like, well, try our Handberry, and we're like, we don't want Handberry. We want White Claw.
Maybe they probably do have another, like a Truly or another,
They did. They gave us Handberry.
Yeah.
Handberry.
Have some thumb fruit flavor. Well, that takes us to 11 p.m. and that's when this was scheduled to end. So you can't argue with the schedule. I'm sorry, we really want to keep going, but Cruise Mom Tara's telling us
numbers
we gotta
bear
finish
it
down.
out.
The numbers bear it out.
Jonathan Riley, your question about the next dress party on the cruise.
Yeah.
Are we going to have another dress party?
day.
Are you
love
kidding?
the dress party.
If we tried to not have another dress party, beyond the mutiny that would happen amongst the attendees, Drew
I would pitch a
would
fit.
start punching wildly and with great force, as well he should.
I'm a man who tends to pretend he hates everything except for a small number of things he very, very much loves, and the dress party is one of those things. So
Yeah.
I will be your sword. I will carry your banner for the dress party. I will defend it.
Speaking as the person finally in charge of the programming, now and forever, there shall be a dress party on JoCo Cruise.
Raza.
Yay! Thank you,
There's one more
Steph. Thank you, Tim.
question.
Oh, sorry, Steph has a question. Go ahead.
It's not even my question. It's Barbara Reese.
Okay.
You're asking if one wants to get more involved behind the scenes of JoCo Cruise, how would one do that? Is there a need? And I would say reach out. Every year we ask for a number of helpers to do various tasks, helping us load in, helping us do a number of fun things, which gets you a little peek behind the curtain of the cruise. If you're interested in that, look out for an email from THO and we'll put you in touch with Tara, who runs that whole piece of the puzzle.
Yep. So there you have it. Thank you again. We will see you all tomorrow for the last day of the virtual cruise. For now. Everybody wave.
Thank you for your cues.
Thanks for your cues. Hope you like the A's.
2021.
Steph will tell us when we're off the air, but we're going to keep talking awkwardly. Look, we're still talking behind the screen.
No, don't